Hello and welcome to this week's Ruby Shoes podcast, bringing you the very best of local entertainment across East Anglia each and every week. Is it too late to say Happy New Year to you? As I sit here, the snow is falling outside. I trust you had a good festive period and not like I managed to succumb to the lurg, which appears to be doing the rounds at the moment. Hopefully, I'm not sounding too under par. If you are suffering too, you have my sympathies. Who knew a simple cold could lay you so low? Anyway, if you're one of our regular listeners to the Ruby Shoes podcast, you'll know our slogan is always the show must go on. So with that in mind, in this first episode of 2024, we hear about a brilliant comedy with songs which is sure to bring you some much needed January joy. Plus we hear from Suffolk composer, musician and sound artist Roger Eno. And I've been taking a look at what's already on offer around the region to tempt you out for some good old-fashioned live entertainment this month. Delighted to welcome to Ruby Shoes podcast Julian Harries. He's the actor and playwright who, as well as being an accomplished actor with roles including the West End, the Royal Shakespeare Company and BBC TV, since 2007, he's also found time to be director of the Suffolk-based Common Ground Theatre Company with his partner, the equally brilliant Pat Wymark. Now, Julian, January is one of the bleakest months. We have got a little bit of snow forecast, and it feels an even bigger reason to have something thrilling to look forward to. Your style of theatre is unique in that it comes to the audience, doesn't it? Tell us more.
Well, we're on. We tour Suffolk and Essex with 2 shows a year, and at the moment we're on tour with our Christmas stroke New Year offering, which is sort of a kind of, we take a genre or a couple of genres, and usually in sort of horror, sci-fi. That sort of area, and we sort of mash them up and do a comedy version of them. So we this year we've got sort of amateur sleuthing, werewolves, gangsters, that sort of thing, and it's called Miss Mimple Meets the Ice Wolf, and it's just very surreal, very silly, kind of spoofy Christmas show.
And it just sounds so much fun. And when I say you bring it to the audience, you literally do, don't you? Because you've been out on tour, you've been all over the place. And, you've been to Stowmarket, you've been to Walton, to Woodbridge. Tonight you're going to be in Colchester, won't you, at the Headgate Theatre, and then right at the Gallery Studio Theatre in St George's Street in Ipswich. So you really have brought it out to the people. Tell me about the show, and then tell me about the audience reaction to this brilliant. I love the title. It's attracted me ever since I read it. Miss Mimple Meets the Ice Wolf.
Well, we Pat and I are both into old horror movies. There's the Hammer genre, the Hammer films, werewolf, zombies, and what's great about things like that is there's very good versions of them, and there's also not so good film being made.
There's some terrible ones as well, isn't there?
Terrible ones, and so that's really what you like to take the mick out of. You like to take the mick out of spoof sort of feeds on bad versions of things. So and cliches of those genres. So the horror cliches of sort of dodgy sets, dodgy makeup, kind of cranky sort of creaking dialogue, that sort of thing. We sort of hone in on those things and just really sort of send them up. And that's what we've done with this one. So everyone's seen a dodgy werewolf movie or a sort of dodgy whodunit, and we sort of we sort of hone in on that aspect of it and just have a ball. We're just having great fun with this one. It's it never stops. It's sort of a high energy. It sort of runs at a very fast pace, and there's lots of gags and visual humor and lots of puppetry in it, and great original music. So yeah, we're having good fun.
I was just about to say, and you've actually not mentioned so far the music. I'm sure that's going down well with audiences as well.
Yes. Pat writes the script and does the sort of songs, and we get lots of comments about how great the songs are. She's very good at uh, uh, sort of producing songs that kind of have the echoes of the genre that we're doing. So this one's set in the 50s, has lots of rockabilly, rock and roll, that sort of thing in it, as well as there's more croony 50s songs as well. We have a few lovely crooning songs that are fun, very fun to do, and everyone in the company plays an instrument. So we're sort of we're kind of very sort of.
Multi-talented by the sound of it.
Well, I was trying to sort of put it in a way that didn't sound like I was, sounded.
But it's true.
Pleased with myself.
Just being able to act is one thing, and then being able to sing or play an instrument, all of those things, people would say, tick, I wish I could do that. The fact you can do all three is pretty amazing, I think so.
Well, it's also great when you find actors who, we audition in London, and it's great to find actors who can do all those things. We're also in awe of actors who come along and have great musical skills and singing, and that people have heard of the triple threat in musical theatre of people who can sing, dance and act, but in actor musician circles there's the quadruple threat. They can also play instruments. So there's some very, very talented people out there.
And what's lovely is you're bringing these fabulously talented people to East Anglia for us to enjoy, which is just amazing.
Yes. We I mean, the actor musician show is very established now. The Woolsey have done, an actor musician rock and roll panto for many years. That's our style is very different. We one of the skills that we look for really over all others really is the comedy. Actors with comedy bones. We look out for those, and actors who have the references that we have, the references of those kind of genre films, classic British comedy, the likes of Blackadder, the Morecambe and Wise Christmas show, sitcoms of the 70s and 80s, those sort of great classic British comedy.
Isn't that harder to find sometimes, Julian? Because I would say you and I are of a similar vintage, and I know exactly what you're talking about. And I can see those pictures in my mind. I'm wondering if the younger actors, as they come through, if that is something that they are still looking at and interested in, or is that harder to find now?
Well, some of them, you're right. A lot of younger actors don't have those references and haven't watched those films and TV that I mentioned, but a lot do. The two actors that we have in our company, the two younger actors that we have in our company this year, are both Doctor Who freaks. They both love Doctor Who and sci-fi in general, and you tend. That kind of, I hate to say that if they're listening, I apologize, but the slightly geeky people tend to watch old movies and old TV, and so thank God there's still an audience for those old shows.
Oh, completely, because they are classic, and there is so much still to learn from those sort of performances. Sometimes the hardest thing, I think, is getting the audience to know about this show. You've done all this hard work, you've auditioned the actors, they've done all of their rehearsals, but it's getting those audiences to know that the show's there. Tell me about a particular publicity stunt that you involved your son in and Rushmere Heath.
Oh my goodness, Rushmere Heath. That's going back a few years.
A cart, yes. So it was quite an unusual one, though, and I say 10 out of 10 for it.
Yes, we were doing it, it was one of our first shows, and it was called Gallows Song, and it was about the treatment and punishment of young offenders in Victoria and Ipswich, and how shocking it was, how many of them were sent to the gallows or transported to the other side of the world for very minor crimes. And we had a company of young, we had a young people's company involved in that, working alongside professional actors. And we staged a hanging on Rushmere Heath, which is where they used to have the gallows in Ipswich, up on Rushmere Heath.
Which is just brilliant. And the fact that it was your son that you were actually, not in real life to hang, but he was the sort of the focal point, shall we say, is brilliant. Yeah. You have to do these things, don't you?
Absolutely.
Tell me, what does 2024 hold for the Common Ground Theatre Company?
Well, it's just myself and Pat who run the company, and we'd like to keep it, to small scale. I don't see ourselves, becoming a sort of big organisation. So we just employ people on a project basis. So come January, we take a bit of a break and a breather and recharge our batteries and basically sit down and have a think about what we want to do next. And the joy about we're basically an unfunded company and make money just through ticket sales, which we're very proud of. And what that does is free us from the current trends, whatever the current trends are in funding circles. The Arts Council have quite sort of strong stipulations about what they want their funded companies to do, the audience they want to achieve, the work, the outreach work they want them to do, and the type of plays they want, the type of themes they want their companies to address. And we're not limited by, whatever the current social engineering trend, whatever you want to call it, is. Yeah. We can just go, we want to do a play about this. We want to do this year, and we're, as artists, that makes us very free to do our own thing.
So any thoughts at all what this will be for this time, next year?
Well, we did a Charles Dickens adaptation a few years ago of the Old Curiosity Shop, which was very popular and went down very well. And we both loved Dickens, and we're thinking we might take another Dickens novel or short story and adapt that. Okay. We did a lovely one of his Christmas stories, not so well known as the Christmas Carol, but beautiful anyway. It's called The Chimes, and we did that as a show a few years ago. And that's if anyone hasn't read The Chimes by Dickens, it's a beautiful story, again about redemption and someone being brought back from the edge of despair, and he's so hopeful, Dickens. He's so optimistic about the human condition. You just go to him in troubled times, and he's very optimistic. So maybe that's what we need this year.
We need plenty of optimism, definitely. I like that idea. So Miss Mimple Meets the Ice Wolf, it's still on until the 21st of January. As I mentioned earlier, it comes to the Gallery Studio Theatre, that's St George Street in Ipswich, of course, and from the 11th to the 20th of January. And then it goes over to Chipping Ongar for a very special final performance in aid of the Essex and Herts Air Ambulance. How can people get hold of tickets?
Well, the easiest way is just to come to our website, which is, shall I give you it?
Yes, please.
It's www, of course, .commongroundtc, that's short for theatre company, commongroundtc.co.uk.
Wonderful. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Good luck with the rest of the run, or I should say break a leg. And thanks for your time for the Ruby Shoes podcast today.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks a lot.
So we've talked about going out to see Miss Mimple Meets the Ice Wolf. You can also later this month be spellbound by the greatest magician coming to the Theatre Royal in Bury St Edmunds. A dazzling new magic show, which is actually on Saturday the 27th of January. It's presented by the magician famous for jamming the BBC switchboards after he correctly predicted the lottery. Handy guide to know. This astonishing, enigmatic 5-star rated magic show will leave you aching from laughter and dizzy in disbelief as you're transported to a jaw-dropping world of light-hearted hilarity, wonderment and mystery. Focusing on mind-bending feats of illusion, from making people forget their own names, I hate to do that anyway to be honest, to vanishing them from the auditorium entirely. This sensational show is a sure sellout, they say. Saturday the 27th of January, that's the Theatre Royal in Merry St Edmunds from 7:30pm. Or how about going east to the Seagull Theatre at the beginning of February for The Haunted? Friday the 2nd of February from 7:30pm, The Haunted is performed and delivered by 3 characters from the weird world of Norfolk legends and ghosts. Starting off down a twisted path in the Thetford marshes with a 20th century beast, a wannabe crook called Mango, and a doggy video deal. Moving back to the 14th century, real-life historical figure Queen Isabella is hounded by the infamous and possibly not-so-real Black Shuck, a fierce wolf-like creature that roams the East Anglian countryside. Finishing off in the 19th century with William T. Bucket, a maverick anthropologist who regales us with tales of haunted Egyptian mummies, his sordid past and a spot of revenge. Woven together by 2 YouTubers looking to impress their fans. Will all go to plan? This is a fun, slightly macabre show full of chills and laughs in equal measure, performed by Danny O'Hara and Vanessa McCauley. This is a slow theatre company production with stories by award-winning writer Stephen Keyworth. This production opened at the Camden Fringe in 2023 before a full run at the Edinburgh Fringe in 2023 as well. So if you fancy that, that's Friday the 2nd of February, starts at 7:30, The Haunted at the Seagull Theatre. Roger Eno, Suffolk composer, musician and sound artist, grew up in Suffolk and he is living on the border with Suffolk and Norfolk, and I got a chance to catch up with him and talk to him a little bit about what inspires his music.
What I see is how music can be a model of how people can get on. So in a room of you must have come across the phrase non-verbal communication.
Oh, yes.
So music is a perfect example of this, how it can cross class, cultural, age boundaries, which I find a remarkable model for the future of humanity. And I'm constantly disappointed that people aren't making more harmony, to use a rather hackneyed analogy. But this is what I often think about is this relates to the world the life that I lead in the world that I live. Is what kind of soundtrack I imagine. So that's all I can say. This is my art. I don't know how other people that are artists, like visual, how they think their work has either influenced or impacts the outer world, influenced by or impacts. But I can't but get an atmosphere from things. So if I'm walking or I see people interacting, that to me is a potential influence for a piece. That's how I work.
Roger, you've been really generous with your time. I've got some quick fire questions for you. Just describe where you're sitting right now for our audience.
Right, I'm sitting in my workroom, which I call the clerestory. It's at the top of our house. It's a studio. I use an iMac to record on. I've got a library full of books, but I haven't got any shelves, so they fall down, they tumble down. It's like a kind of avalanche of literature and encyclopedias and myths. I've got instruments around me, brass instruments, euphoniums, bass guitars, ukuleles, harps and psalteries. I've got my dog Ted up here, who's a bearded collie. Look at that, right on view. See it?
Oh, so cute.
Ted, eh? Well done, Ted. That was right.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's grand. Yeah, so this is where I am. It's one of my favourite places in the world, to tell you the truth.
And if you want to read the full interview with Roger Eno, it's available in this month's, that's the January issue of the Suffolk Norfolk Life magazine, which is also available online. Next week, we catch up with actor, writer, director and former Blue Peter presenter Peter Duncan. Plus, just when you think Panto season is sadly coming to a close, well, it's not. Springfield Follies are just gearing up to hit the stage, so more on that next week. And if you're listening to this thinking, why aren't you mentioning our play or show or event happening in East Anglia, then get in touch with us via our socials. Ruby Shoes Podcast. Tell us a little bit about you, what you've got planned, and you might be one of our featured guests on a future episode. I'm Steph McIntyre. Thanks for listening, and we'll chat more live theatre and entertainment in next week's Ruby Shoes Podcast. In the meantime, do check out our socials and have a great week, and don't catch cold.